The Last Stop in Yuma County follows a group of strangers with no petrol all stranded at a remote petrol station awaiting the arrival of the fuel truck. What begins as a hot, tedious day of waiting soon turns into a fight for survival, as the service station becomes the host of a hostage situation for all involved. This film was directed by Francis Galuppi, and it stars Jocelyn Donahue, Richard Brake, Jim Cummings, Barbara Crampton, and Faison Love. This film has the kind of grit and simplicity of an early Tarantino film. It's the kind of film you feel like you don't get see made anymore. And I absolutely loved it. So firstly, the reason to watch this film is the cast and the characters that they play. Everyone plays a completely different kind of character to each other. It's like you just got a completely mixed bag of all these different personalities converging and arguing and fighting and, being pretty violent with each other. And it's just a delight to watch. It's great. Jocelyn Donahue does a great job as probably the most grounded of the characters. But then you have the kind of anxiety-fueled Jim Cummings who plays the knife salesman. He's only known as a knife salesman. You have the completely fucking terrifying Richard Brake, who I don't know what it is with him, but he's gone from like being in some of the best horror films of the past few years, like Mandy, to being in The Strangers Chapter 1, and then to being in The Last Stop in Yuma County. He's gone from he's just going up and down. It's insane what, I don't even know. He needs to find someone consistent because he is great in everything that he does, but he's not always in the best films. But I'm so glad he gets a chance to shine here because he is fantastic. The characters all speak kind of like they would in an early Tarantino film, or just a Tarantino film in general, I should say. But it's the kind of way that they speak that it works for the style of film. And you think of all the failed Tarantino knockoffs over the years. The example I'm going to use here is The Boondock Saints. A completely dreadful, unbearable film because it's just like they're trying to make the characters speak all witty and humorous like they do in the Tarantino films, but they're just failing miserably. When you get a film like The Last Stop in Yuma County and the characters all speak kind of like that, but they never exactly go overboard and it never becomes grating, it's a lot easier to appreciate how well this film does it compared to The Boondock Saints because of how bad we have seen it gone. So props to the writing in this film, props to the acting. It's just fantastic. I adore the simple bottle thriller setup. You kind of feel trapped. You're just in this one spot. There's no contact to the outside world. There's no way to escape. There's nowhere to go for 100 miles. It is the last stop in Yuma County, and this is where you're staying, whether you like it or not. And everyone's trapped there. They've all got converging motives. It's just a great setup. It mines every bit of its premise. There's something about The Last Stop in Yuma County that really it subverts your expectations. It's not exactly what you're expecting. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but the way the film is paced and what happens at certain parts of the film, you feel like you're coming to the end of the film, but you've still got half an hour left at one stage. And it's just like, where are we going now? This is actually really interesting. And it expands on it more than most other hostage films do. So that was really appreciated. As I've already hinted at, the sense of humor in this film is fantastic. It's the kind of, I keep referring to Tarantino. If there's one way I'm going to sell this film, it's by comparing it to Quentin Tarantino, because I feel like the majority of people like him very much. So that's the thing. When you got a sense of humor like this, but you also have explosions of violence and just complete terror, basically, it's incredible how well Galuppi has done to blend those two tones without ever feeling like they're combating. It is kind of like the Reservoir Dogs situation, where it's just one location, a bunch of people turning on each other. They're pointing guns at each other. It's very witty. It's very funny. But it's also horrific. Like, you're just like, holy fucking shit. It just throws you back. You're like just gasping. It's incredible how well it's done. And as I said, that's one of the most impressive parts, is it never feels like it's combating those two tones. I think the way it captures its 1970s setting is brilliant. Obviously, I wasn't around in that time, But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, the cars, the kind of music around that time, the phone and stuff like that plays a big part. It wouldn't really work nowadays because you all just have these phones just on you 24/7, but the contact to the outside world becomes a big part and the phone line is snipped. It really does feel like you're in the 1970s, and it really does a great job of that. Now, the only drawbacks that I had with this film was some of the editing choices. I know I was just praising the pacing of this film. It is at a brisk 90 minutes and it never overstays its welcome. It's excellent. But there are some parts where it's edited very choppily. It's just a bit strange. It's just like, I'm not exactly sure what the point of that was. For example, there's one point when Faison Love's character is talking to someone and they're asking if there's, when the fuel truck's going to be here and whatnot. And he's like, oh yeah, it'll be here in a couple of hours. And the person says, how far is it to the next petrol station? And he goes, there's no other petrol station around for 100 miles. This is the last stop in Yuma County. But when he says Yuma County, it cuts off before he finishes speaking. So it's like this. This is the last stop in Yuma. If that felt choppy and weird in this review, it feels the exact same way in the film, and I'm not exactly sure why. It's not gonna break the film or anything like that, but it's just some kind of head-scratching moments where you're like, what? And lastly, there were a couple of things that were a little bit far-fetched, but it's a film. It's a film that's clearly detached from reality. It doesn't bother me too much, but there were a couple of points in the film where I was like, I don't know about that. But I'm seriously just scraping the bottom of the barrel here, trying to find anything to whinge about. I try to always find some problems in a film that I really love or something to like in a film that I really hate. So that's why I'm being nitpicky. But other than those two minor flaws, I fucking loved this film. I believe it's been out on VOD in the US and the UK for a while now, so absolutely do check it out if you're in the US or the UK. And to my Australian viewers, not very many of them, but it only just got released to VOD about a week ago. So now that the film is more widely available, I would say that The Last Stop in Yuma County is absolutely worth watching and absolutely worth buying. Thanks for watching my review of The Last Stop in Yuma County. Let me know what you thought of this film in the comments, and let me know if you checked it out because of this review, because that always makes me happy when I realise I've turned even just one person onto a film. That's what I like to do, and then I can discuss in the comments with you. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you all later.